Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Will Tran with the Filmmakers Code, and today we're talking about the top 10 mistakes that I see in beginner editors. Editing is a lot more than just sticking clips together in the order that they were supposed to go in. It's an understanding of how a scene is supposed to look, sound, and feel. The footage may look beautiful after you shot it, but if you don't understand how to edit your project together and present it in an amazing way in post-production, then your film is doomed to fail. Now before we start, what I'm about to tell you will apply to all of your edits. If the shot or scene feels too fast to you after you watch it back, then it is too fast. If it feels too slow to you, then it is too slow. If you think something feels wrong with your scene, there is something wrong. After you've edited your scene, watch the scene back and pretend as if you haven't seen the film before. If you think there's something wrong with your scene whenever you watch it back, then it's going to be even more obvious to your audience when they watch it for the first time. Alright, anyways, let's start with mistake number 1, rushing. Beginner editors tend to rush their edits. They cut out every nuance and silence, and they don't give the actors' lines room to breathe. Here's an example.
So, guys, what do you think?
Fuck, what's ISO again?
So we want to keep it low.
Cool, hey.
Take my picture.
No, we're making a movie. Fuck off!
Maybe we should just stick to writing for now.
Told you we should have invited Chad.
Chad's an asshole.
An asshole who knows how to work the camera. Never happened on Tarantino sets.
Shut the fuck up about your Tarantino internship!
You can see how the scene feels way too fast. There's no breathing room between lines, and the cuts just happen the millisecond that the line starts. There are of course times where we'd want to do this, like when somebody's interrupting somebody,
I wish you'd stop working with that guy.
Shut the fuck up. The thing about films is,
but you need to understand that doing this for every single line is not good practice as an editor. Silence and nuances have power in a scene, and when used correctly, your scenes will resonate and impact your audience effectively. Moving on to mistake number 2, dragging. This is completely opposite from number 1, where instead of rushing the cuts in a scene, they let the clips drag on for too long, which makes the scenes feel like an eternity. Let's take a look at another example.
Hey man, this is real awkward, but like, this is kind of my training spot. It's kind of where I train, you know? So if you could, you know, step off, maybe find someone else to train, you know what I mean?
Public space, isn't it?
Yeah, public space.
These shots hold for way too long, and they almost make you internally scream, "Just cut already, goddammit!" A good rule of thumb is to try to keep all shots no more than 10 seconds long without something interesting happening or cutting away. There are times where dialogue scenes hold one shot for a really long time though. However, during these long takes, something interesting needs to happen to keep your audience engaged. One of the most common techniques is a really long and slow camera movement. Check out the scene in The Last of Us. They have a dialogue scene with a shot that doesn't cut for more than a whole 2 minutes.
Kurang lebih 30 jam yang lalu, Bu.
Di mana?
Di pabrik tepung dan gabah di barat kota.
Lahan yang sempurna untuk itu.
Throughout this whole scene, the camera is slowly moving forwards to keep you engaged. Can you imagine what the scene would be like if there was no camera movement for 2 whole minutes? Also, there was one other thing in this whole scene that was a little bit more subtle that kept you engaged. Did you catch it? That was the English captions that you had to read at the bottom. Assuming most of us don't speak Indonesian, you have to actively read the subtitles at the bottom in order for you to understand the scene. Therefore, you are fully engaged the whole way through. And for the few people who do speak Indonesian, the slow camera movement keeps them engaged instead. Overall, if you're wanting to hold a shot for more than 10 seconds, then be sure to have something interesting happen in the scene to keep the audience actively engaged. This can be subtle like a camera movement or subtitles, or something grandiose like a fight scene. Alright, mistake number 3, no sound design. Remember this everybody, audio is half of the viewing experience. A very big amateur editing move is to not add any sound design underneath your scenes. Something that I see a lot is people just completely muting a scene and only have music play throughout. Expert filmmakers will pack their scenes chock full of sound effects, audio, and music. Albeit there are exceptions to this, considering not every scene is going to need heavy sound design. However, the majority of scenes will have at least a handful of sound effects to enhance the story. Overall, you shouldn't ever have complete radio silence. Silence isn't actually silent. When there isn't any prominent noise like dialogue, you'll still hear room tone, such as the air conditioning, birds chirping, traffic, etc. Find or create sound effects in order to add to your story, even in silent moments. At the same time, when layering in a ton of sound effects like this, you do need to watch your audio levels, which leads me to my next point. Mistake number 4, bad audio mixing. Your levels should never be too quiet for anybody to hear or too loud that your audio starts clipping and destroys people's eardrums. The sweet spot that you need to keep your master volume at is in between -18 and -6 dB. Any higher or lower than that, then your audio will suffer, which will then take your audience out of your story. Okay, mistake number 5, cutting in the middle of actions. We're getting a little bit more specific now. Beginners tend to cut away at inopportune times in a shot. For example, beginners may cut away from the shots in the middle of a camera movement, which is extremely jarring and comes off as amateur. At the same time, they may cut away in the middle of somebody's action. If you cut in the middle of actions like this, then the shot feels incomplete. And again, further shows that you're not very experienced in editing. If an important action is happening in the middle of the shot, you need to let that whole movement play out in order for the moment to feel complete. And moving on to mistake number 6, extremely short cutaways. All right, so this video is actually part of our brand new $27 mini filmmaking course. So if you're struggling to find actually good, useful information on YouTube, we have the full version of this video and 10 other value-packed informational videos about indie filmmaking that you're not gonna find anywhere else on YouTube or in film school. So be sure to snag the mini course in the top right corner and in the first link in the description below. See you guys there.